So, hello. How is everyone in Singapore or wherever? Singapore would be middle of the night.
Yeah, they're not.
They're all sleeping. California. Oh, just had a lovely walk in that wood. Ooh, wee. Extraordinary, isn't it? I found a nice stand of beaches at the back. One side. Did you ever see that one? Big, great big beaches. When you meditate, you and don't distract your mind. The beauty hits you very beautifully. The person that got me into birding was his name was Nick Scott, who wrote that book about pilgrimage in India. He's a very good friend, and we did a trip from Poland to St. Petersburg once. But once we were in, he's a plant ecologist, and his partner Mish is a botanist. Anyway, we were walking on the Abel Tasman in South Island, New Zealand, and we came across, I think this is there, a fuchsia. You all know what a fuchsia is, with a little hanging red flower, pink flower. And this was a tree. He'd never seen a fuchsia that was, because the environment's different. And he stopped and he applauded. Because he had such an appreciation for nature. He understood it and he loved it. And so there is that in our lives where through experience and through our interest in whatever we're interested in, we gain a deeper appreciation of things, which is part of the joy of what I think that we call mudita. And in that chant, the four sublime abidings, the third one, in Pali it's mudita, gladness. So there is that in our lives, which I think is very important, gladness. It's usually in the in the text, it's well, it's sort of described as like a mom being happy for the success of her child. That kind of empathetic gladness, which is true. But Nick was really glad with the fuchsia. So gladness is different than the nature of consuming something. You may enjoy consuming a chocolate eclair, and that might make you happy, but that's based upon, I think, something else, because you probably then want a cappuccino to top it off, and then maybe something from Netflix would be nice. And, so consumption of things is we do that, but gladness is something, it's like appreciation. And that requires us to sort of get out of the way. And I think this kind of practice, hopefully we're getting out of the way in that sense. And yet we walk in the woods, although it doesn't take a retreat to do that with those woods. They're very special. And everyone you see walking through there is sort of in awe. That's when we can use the word awe. And everyone says awesome now. Someone you give them a coffee, so awesome. So, but you can really sense that there, the cathedral-like trees. So that's what you want, like in terms of the practices of the heart. Usually we just talk about metta karuna, loving kindness and compassion, and gladness is also, we have it. I don't think we talk about it so much. So art, which brings that sense of awe, I would say is spiritual art. Art which just points to the artist as a kind of like a political statement or whatever it is, to me that's still art, but to me it doesn't do the same thing. So beauty is something that stops the mind. But when we ourselves enter into stillness, then we notice beauty more. So we notice the shape of a tree or a cloud or whatever. So you might just think, well, where does gladness come into my life? How is it a part of my life? Might be through music, or like music which is consuming music is different than music which stops your mind. We don't do music. It's a very dry tradition. We like to smuggle in a sitar or something. It's a little be nice. So he comes from a fabulous tradition. But I didn't sign up for the music or the diet. So I live in the constraints of my life. You live in the constraints of your life. So life can't always be beautiful. But as we practice in this way, we like Nick does plant ecology, right? Or I sometimes make furniture, so I'm always looking at how things are made and appreciating them and then judging them, that kind of thing. So that's appreciation from skill. Now we're developing a skill which is actually, it's so inclusive. It's so inclusive that you don't really need beauty. But if you get it, you're very, very grateful. But if you don't have it, you have refuge. You have silence, you have stillness. And so if the wallpaper doesn't suit your aesthetic, or the borscht, you didn't like the borscht, or, I love the borscht. No, that's being facetious, but quite often the complaining mind, like around the tech, I'm sure, we kind of expect the technology to work. Why? Well, because we paid our money. Oh, great, that's a good reason. But the world of things is not constructed to our desires. So when you notice something like beauty and heart reaches gladness, just abide as that, mudita. And then you probably do that with your family, members of your family who are doing well. You do that in metta bhavana, don't you? Kind of bring up maybe one of your kids, one of your grandkids is really doing well, and that really makes you happy. So you can do metta bhavana from gladness. May all beings be well, or all beings who are successful, may they continue to be successful. That kind of. And I don't know about you. I just the more I live my life, when I see anyone with skill, whether it's a plumber or a tree cutter or like Mickey, the chef here, I really like him. I don't know. I've got to know him. He should get a knee operation. But he's just a hardworking man, and he earns his bread, and he makes bread, and that kind of appreciation for the goodness of others is part of the whole heart connection that we have with all beings. And we all know this, but it's good just to kind of remember it. And that's mudita in the four. So in the four Brahma Viharas, you have metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. Metta is loving kindness. And again, trying to take that sense of loving kindness to greater than just individuals, to an attitude of consciousness which is all-inclusive. Like the Shin Shin Ming, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. Remember that? That's an old 70s one we all ran through. So that sense of openness then means that the world doesn't have to be beautiful in any kind of aesthetic sense. So then the coarseness of life, the cruelty that we have to see, all of these things, we can be with it and then critique it, but not from aversion, not from hatred, not from how horrible the world is. You think of all these the whole news stories now are so frightening, aren't they? I wonder how young people handle all that. I just can't imagine. So we need to both protect our minds, but also enliven them with the heart. So you have karuna. Then, of course, is compassion, and compassion is not fixing. Sometimes you can fix, but oftentimes you can't. So wanting to fix something might be a compassionate intention, but if it's not possible and it's not in your resources or the other people's resources, situation to do that, compassion goes to worry, doesn't it? So compassion is not worry. Worry is worry. Worry is not wanting life to be this way. And doing that, that's one of the things you see in the text. Yeah, there is old age, sickness, and death, and there are famines and floods, and life is tough. And to bring that to compassion rather than horror. Horror, I guess, sells news. It's a kind of voyeurism we have in our society where the same horror shows get played over 6 million times. How horrible. But what does that do to the mind? It doesn't really bring it to compassion. It brings it more to horror and worry and so on. Whereas compassion, you see, like my parents are refugees from Latvia, so I always have that connection, and we all would do. I mean, took refugees. I think half of Canada from refugee backgrounds. But I just, I see that and think, oh wow, my mom went through that. But these people go through. And that's compassion. That brings you to compassion. So we have to protect our minds from the overload of negativity, but we can also view it with, wow, this is suffering. These people are suffering. But if you have to fix it, then of course you just feel horrible. So you work with your resources you have. Then mudita is this sense of joy, gladness around beauty. I get a lot of joy from just seeing stuff made. I just love seeing. See, like Brian's wrap there. Brian, are you with us? Almost. Anyway, I like his wrap. And then upekkha. Upekkha is equanimity. And equanimity is a sort of a dry word. Equanimity, but when Rama Sir and I were talking about it, must be some constituent of love in it, because the Brahmaviharas are of the heart. So what is peaceful coexistence with the way things are? You could say is equanimity, but it's that open-hearted acceptance of the way things are rather than resignation. It's like when Lopez Semedo says it's like this. That's not resignation. You've been listening to his talks. It's like this. It's vibrant. He's really vibrant with presence. And it's as opposed to, it's like this. Another afternoon of meditation. which is an attitude which is not very happy. But so upekkha, if it has the constituent of love in it, what would that mean in terms of peaceful coexistence? It would still be an appreciation, wouldn't it, of some sort? Yeah, we've been talking about this for the last year. We still haven't got it quite sorted. But it is important, the kind of peaceful coexistence of the way things are, because life is like this. And then we do what we can. So that in terms of like technological stress that one of our members faces daily, and in work situations, people face that all the time. And then if you make conscious the feeling of stress, stress feels this way, then that's upekkha. You're accepting it into consciousness. Then you do what you want. You can breathe. You can leave the retreat. Please don't. Or whatever is in the cards for you. But first and foremost, it's to make things conscious, and that's one of the early teachings that Luang Por gave a lot. And Chithurst was consciousness is the escape hatch. When things are, it must be common parlance in modern psychology. that when you allow things to become conscious, you know them, then that knowing is bigger than the thing which is becoming conscious. If you're not willing to let it become conscious, so if I'm stressed, and I say, oh God, this thing doesn't work, it doesn't work, I'm not really conscious of the stress. But I'm like, oh, this is horrible. Or, oh, this is a disaster. Can I really open the mind to it? Then that's the entry into upekkha, because you see it as an object. You're not the subject of it. And that's always the way. We're talking about this where this would not work is if someone had something like PTSD and they re-traumatized. I was trying to get my head around PTSD the last few months because I'm not skilled in that. And so the two words that a lot of you are into psychology, I was a psychiatrist, but the kind of dissociation, those two words, dissociation and re-traumatizing, were the words I was trying to figure out. But I could see how someone would, some trauma would come up and then they'd start to think about it and then go into it, and that would not be helpful at all, I think. So when things come up, it's not so much thinking about them, because if you think the narrative, then you're not really aware of it. You're caught in the narrative, just knowing, oh, stress is like this, and then constantly coming back to the stillness of knowing. And if we do that in the forest and in situations which aren't that difficult for us, then we develop the capacity and strength and skill, and the skill of, oh yeah, it's like this, and then you understand it, because you understand it as it is rather than as a whole bunch of concepts around it. So those four, the loving kindness, compassion, gladness, equanimity, are I suppose they're the wholesome psychology of Buddhism, the wholesome mind states that among many, and they need to be constantly remembered. I don't think you have to practice them. Practice, yes, but is love a practice? You kind of do it, and you remember it, and you remember to do it. So remembrance is important. And just remembering, oh, there is that in the world, there is gladness, and that seems to kind of work. All right, let's do some more meditation then. Nice seeing those kids run around, isn't it? He came up to me and said, "Who are you?" I really want to know. I'll give a bit of instruction and then I'll shift to my yogi chair. Waiting. So like if I say, I'm going to give some instruction, that can be this anticipation in the mind. When does the thing start? And that's an object in awareness. So non-becoming, non-desire, non-resistance, non-anticipation. That's presented via negativa way, but there's also stillness of being, stillness of knowing. So listen to sound. And establish stillness of knowing. And then feel your hands. And it's the same stillness of being. So the experience of the object points to the stillness of being. Listen to sound. Notice the changing nature of sound. And then what is unchanging. Feel your hands. Perceive the feelings, sensations in your hands as in awareness. And then listen to sound. Perceive sound as in awareness. What's different and what's the same. Feeling the hands different than the sound. So the more you can play around like this when you start meditation, then you establish what right mindfulness is about. And then sustaining that is what samadhi is about. So then how might you sustain that? Well, we could do that exercise. So bring attention to your mouth, inside of your mouth. Feel the sensations inside your mouth. The lips, the walls of the mouth, the teeth, the tongue. Know that as sensation. And stillness of being is still there, always will be. Go to the ear canals, feel the ears, both ears, the outer structures of the ears. Feel both ears as sensations, vibration, radiating. Not a concept, not a thought. And there's the stillness of knowing. Feel the sensations that are your nose, bridge of the nose, nostrils. Let that become conscious. And the stillness of knowing. Feel the eye sockets, and the eyes themselves. Tension, pressure. Let it become conscious. Receptive awareness and the stillness of knowing. Trace a line back to the center of inside your head. Feel whatever's there. Feel the forehead. Behind the forehead. Sensations rather than ideas. Trace it back to the middle of the brain. Feel the scalp, the top of the head, inside the top of the head. So has the stillness of knowing changed? Go to the back of the head. Feel the vibrations, sensations. Draw a line into the center of the brain. Feel the whole head, back of the head, top of the head, forehead, eyes, nose, ears, mouth, tongue. So sensations, vibrations, radiation, and the stillness of knowing. Feel the neck, the sides of the neck, the back of the neck, the throat, inside the throat, inside the neck. Left side of the neck connected to the left shoulder, and then down the arm, the upper arm, left elbow, forearm, and the hand, very sensitive. The whole left arm. No thinking, no need to think. And the stillness of knowing. The right arm, the right shoulder, upper arm, elbow, forearm, and the right hand. Both arms, both hands to the shoulders. And the stillness of knowing. Connect that, both arms, neck, and head. There's one mass of sensations. There's the sound of the plane and the stillness of knowing. Feel the upper chest, feel the chest cavity inside the chest, the walls, the front, the back, the organs, lungs, diaphragm, heart, as sensation. And the stillness of knowing. The abdomen, walls of that cavity, front and back, and all the organs in there. Pelvic area, the pelvic bones, walls of the pelvis, and the organs in the pelvic area, and the stillness of knowing. The left hip, thigh, knee, lower leg, ankle, foot on the left side. Bring all that together as one mass of sensations. And then the right leg, the hip, the thigh, the knee, lower leg, ankle, foot, the whole right leg as sensation. And the stillness of knowing. Not separate, but distinct. Knowing. Both legs, pelvis, the chest, the torso, both arms, neck and head, back of the head, top of the head, forehead, eyes, nose, ears, mouth. The whole body now as sensation. And there's the stillness of knowing. And now the question is, awareness separate from? Is there a thing called awareness? And another thing called body sensation? And the question is the answer. But is awareness the same? Awareness knows things are changing. And the question is the answer. So how do you sustain this simple insight in the stillness of knowing? Using the breath, doing nothing. So I'll stop talking and leave you to it.